Yeah, because then Pete will be here and then maybe I'll do the ones with Pete and then finish with us again. Yeah? And you can work in between or watch. Or the one with Pete with Aruka, it could be, if it's not too hard, a 3-way conversation. I've got Steph here today. Again, my favourite guest. And because we're doing different segments now, there's all the different segments in the podcast. Today's focus is real life chats. Real life chats, real life friend chats, our lives, the shit that we probably don't want to say. I feel like that's the vibe because we're always in the past have been like giving advice and giving feedback, a little bit of vulnerability, but not really much.
Yeah, I think today's conversation is really about leaning into those vulnerabilities, and I can tell that we're both actually quite hesitant.
I can feel my palms sweating.
Yeah, but both feel as though it's time in a dramatic way because
we got shit to say.
We got shit to say, and there's so much of our humanness that we want to bring to the forefront, and it's not to say that it's been really intentionally not there, but it's just time to have a real life vulnerable chat with no real outcome, with no expectations, with no advice, just bringing all of us forward.
Yeah. And I feel like probably we're going to have those, I don't know about you, but whenever we have chats or whenever I say stuff out loud, I start to like realize things as I'm saying it and I start to connect all the dots just through sheer word vomit.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, it's just when you're in a cafe and you're talking to a friend and you're like, I just answered my own question. Or what just came out of my mouth is genuinely something I needed to hear in this moment. And I think there's so much power to that for sure.
100%. So I feel like, I mean, we could go back a million years, but I feel like the place to start for me would be the fact that there's a lot of change that's been happening. There's been a lot of things that have been happening over the last few months, but definitely the catalyst would be a couple of weeks ago. I was basically nearly died. So I had a sinus infection or what I thought was a sinus infection, and someone had said to me, you should take this painkiller. It's designed for period pain, but it's really, really good for sinus pain. It does something to your sinuses. It unblocks them. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. And it was called naprogesic, and I've never had it before, but it's just like an over-the-counter thing. Anyway, so I went and bought it, and the funny thing about it is when I bought it, I looked at the packet and I was like, something in me was like, oh, that looks like really druggy. Like, I don't know how that sounds, but like it looked like very pharmaceutical. And I was like, oh, I wonder what's in it. So I flipped it over and I looked at the ingredient, and then I looked at like the side effects. And I remember thinking whatever the ingredient is that it's in it blocks something that stops your period cramps. That is obviously what helps the sinuses. But I was like, oh, I wonder what it does to your body. Like, that's probably not good. Probably similar to Panadol, to be honest. But like, I was like, oh, that's like an ingredient I've never heard of before. And I remember feeling this little pang of just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't take that. And then being like, nah, it's fine. So then I took it home, and then I looked at the back and I was like, oh, how many am I supposed to take? And it said 2. And I remember again feeling like, oh, don't take it. But I was like, oh, I'll just take 1 because I'm like, you know, a sensitive person to any changes in environment or drugs or anything. So I was like, I'll just take 1. And I took 1, swallowed it down with some water, and literally within minutes, like probably within 120 seconds, I walked from the kitchen into the lounge room to Gav. Oh, I can feel my heart like reliving it right now. Into Gav, and was like, my body, something's wrong. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, something's wrong with my body. And my arms went weak. My whole body went weak. I felt like I needed to sit down. Everything went dizzy. And I thought it was like a panic attack at the start, because it was like that kind of feeling of like your body just shutting down and going into complete shock. And then I was like, I think I might be allergic to the tablet I just took. And he's like, you're okay. Like, it's all right. Just sit down. And then a second later, my throat just closed over, and I obviously was very allergic to it, and went into anaphylactic shock. And he was really good. He's straight away, as soon as he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I couldn't speak, obviously. And so he was like straight away on the phone to the ambulance. And they were just around the corner, which was so lucky, and got there in like 4 minutes. And it was like I'm such a like, there's been so many times in my life that I've been through shock and that I've been through intense trauma that I kind of was like really shook it off. Like I had the next day in bed and stuff, but I was kind of just like, oh, like I'll be fine. Like worse things have happened. I survived. I'm alive. But then to be honest, in the last 2 weeks, my body has not been okay. Like I have been, to my own surprise, like going through these waves where my arms will go weak again and my heart will start racing and my tongue will feel tingly and it will feel like my throat's going to close over. I've been having dreams about like dying in like the most horrific ways. And it's just like triggered something inside of me. And yeah, it's been like the most awful feeling. And we were speaking about it today, like it's brought up all of these other traumas that I've been through that I could read off on a piece of paper on a list. But it's like, oh, I actually haven't worked on any of those because they felt so small compared to what I was dealing with. But in reality, they were huge things, like when I had Lyme disease and I went to Cyprus and I was away from my kids for 5 weeks in a foreign country getting the most horrific medical treatments, like so many needles, my veins were shutting down and I had to have IVs in my feet and like just my body just being in shock and not being okay and me just being like, oh, you know, I survived it, I'm fine, and never actually having to work on it. And so all these other traumas that like are actually really fucking huge are coming to the surface and like hitting me all at once since this has happened. And it's just made me be like reevaluate everything in life. Like just I've just been like, okay, what are we doing? What really matters? And I feel like we were talking about this in the car today. And that's kind of where our conversation leaded down to like values.
Absolutely. It's crazy because I still remember when I read that text from you in the morning and you said it so casually in a sense of, oh, I'm not going to be able to do the podcast today. I had an anaphylactic shock and was in hospital and I could feel the casualness in that alone. And I think the first thing I actually want to say is I'm so proud of you because I think realizing one that there's still things to work on after doing so much work can be a big realization in itself, but allowing yourself to recognize that these are just as valid even though they are perceived as smaller. And like I said to you in the car, it's now a time where they can come through. And I think having that literal near-death experience puts those things into perspective and maybe it's like, okay, no, it is time to look at these and they do matter even though they're not as big as what I went through as a child and what I previously worked through. And you're so resilient. You're so incredibly resilient. So
almost to like my own detriment though, because it's that
absolutely.
thing, yeah.
And it's really beautiful to see you be like, no, I need to look at these and they're worth looking at. And Jess has this insane ability to just off the cusp be like, oh yeah, I just like went to Cyprus and I nearly died and I had like a tick and I got Lyme disease and it was like hectic. And then COVID hit and I was like, that's actually really traumatic, girl. Like, so I'm happy to hear that it's something that you're going to be looking at essentially. And it does bring you back to your values going to that point because whether it is a near-death or experience or something that happens in your everyday life, it could be a conversation you have or whatever it is, having those moments where you come back to your values. And I'm so glad it's come up because Jess and I were also talking about, I think this is a good gateway into one of the things that we wanted to speak about is how we actually felt disconnected from those values and from that why, and allowing your near-death experience to actually be a catalyst to start reconnecting to that is actually really beautiful.
I feel like it did put those values into play or like into the forefront of my mind, but it also was like this realization of I say that I've healed and I have healed like those big traumatic things and the flashbacks and things like that, but it's like I actually wasn't taking very good care of myself. Like the fact that I even had the sinus infection in the first place was a key sign to me that I haven't been looking after my health because I get those when I get really run down. And so it was like, yes, I'm pushing and hustling and I'm like, you know, reaching business goals and things like that. But it's like, what am I sacrificing? And I thought back over my life and I was like, the pattern is always put yourself last. Like put your sleep last, put eating good food last, put yourself and your health last until it's dire, and then focus on it out of like a chaotic, panicked response instead of actually like prioritizing that going forward. And I feel like that comes down to, it is self-worth, but it's also just like a pattern of being invisible, of being like, you know, put everything else and everyone else first and put yourself last. And it was like, oh, I actually like aren't doing as well as I thought. Yes, physically, yes, on fucking Instagram it looks like I am. But in reality, it's like, well, what does that actually feel like? And am I actually looking after myself really well, as, you know, the way that a healed person would?
100%. And I think it really speaks to the conversation again that we were having off camera, where Jess and I made a decision this past New Year's to send it in our businesses and really get out of our own ways and do the things that our 2024 self was maybe scared to do. And I think we've done that incredibly well. Like this year has been incredible, like so far. And if this is what the 2 months is, then like count me in. But I think in the process of that, I've seen how we have both struggled with it. And it's a big permission slip for everyone that listens to this podcast, that even though on Instagram it might seem like someone, not even just us, has it together, but us as the example, we have been struggling in a way. And I think we're learning just how important it is, which is something that we knew but haven't been walking that talk as much, because what we knew and how we were embodying that made sense for the capacity that we were doing. But that has to grow and that has to change, and that needs to get bigger as we get bigger and as we do work more and as we expand. All of those other things need to be expanded too. And I don't think we did that. I think not intentionally. No. We've been so excited and we've been like on these highs and
great things have happened.
And great things have happened, but it's so important to take care of yourself. And that is what it boils down to, is just realizing that we can have all of that, but we also need to be looking at ourselves, and the power is in the lesson, right? And the power is in the awareness. And I think your health especially has declined, and it's kind of
even you too. Like I feel like you've been run down and tired and
got a runny nose right
hitting
now.
walls and like I think it's definitely, and I think a big shift for me too was like there's people that I had like sort of looked up to in, you know, in the Instagram world, in the business world, things like that. There's a lot of people that I looked up to, and after that experience, whether it was just like eyes wide open or whether there was different content or what, I don't know what, but it was almost like I could see the unhappiness and the fakeness in so many people that like I was like, oh, that looks good on Instagram, but actually if I put myself into that situation, that actually looks like way too much for one day, or they actually look really run down or unhealthy, or they're not eating well, or like, I don't know, I just started to realize that a lot of the people that we idolize are actually probably just living in fight or flight, and they're not actually probably that happy. And I think you and me both have this. We love the beach and we love camping and being out in nature, and you know, we like bougie stuff sometimes, but we're mostly a little more wholesome. Yeah. And a lot of the people that we look up to in business aren't that. And so it's like trying to be someone that you're not, almost, because you get swept up in this Instagram world of like financials and figures and these coaches that are like, make this many K months and this many K months. And like you start to set these goals and then all of a sudden it's like, but why?
Yeah.
Because all I actually want to do is go camping this weekend, which would cost me $100. Like, but why? Why am I doing it? Like, what's the why?
100%. For me personally, I definitely feel like there is that part that thinks I need to be able to hold it all together at the same time. And I forgot just how important it is, like I said, to focus on those other areas just as much as business. And I would look at the people that I aspire to be like in one way or another, in one area of business or whatever it is, and assume that they've got it all together, and if they can hold it, then I can hold it. And if I want to be at that level, then I need to hold it too, and I need to do the same amount of things. And it truly comes down to that comparison. I think for me personally, I have tried really hard to be authentic. And it's such a big value that I overthink it too much. And I have this question of like, am I being authentic? Is this going to come across as inauthentic? And I start overthinking my authenticity and wondering which parts of my authenticity I should bring back.
Authentic.
But to be so honest, like I do hide some parts of myself. I do hide, and I don't speak about my vulnerabilities all the time because I do still have those fears that I'm going to be judged for that, or I'm going to be seen as like not having it all together. And because my brand essentially is identity and being able to bring all parts of yourself forward, knowing that there is still that tiny part of me that hasn't been doing that had a lot of shame to it. However, it is so human, no matter how authentic you are or how open you are or how vulnerable you are, there's still going to be at every level something that you might be shying away from, or something that you don't want to show, or you have periods of overthinking sometimes, and then other times you're just laying it all. But I think what it really came down to is like being so worried that I wasn't being authentic. So I would try extra hard to be authentic. And it would just be this weird cycle.
But it's also like when you're in the Instagram world, it's like you're almost like in your personal branding. It's almost like you get taught that you have to show up in a consistent way and that you are your personal brand. But it's like you have to pick elements that are your personal brand. But we're so complicated that sometimes you feel like you can't show those parts because it's like, oh, that's not really in line with my brand. Like I'm normally happy and bubbly and fun. I can't post something like this because that doesn't go with my brand. And at the end of the day, I'm a brand, not a person, but you are a person. And that's where our industry especially is really confusing, because it's not like we're showing up and selling something that's separate from ourselves. It's literally selling your own growth, your own self-development. You're the example. And that's really hard to be sometimes.
100%. I think for me, the reality is too, I know for a fact if I showed every single part of myself at every moment of every day, I would be a very confusing person to watch.
But aren't we also confusing?
We are all, it's because we're all so multifaceted and we're all so different, and emotions and all of the things. And I think it just really speaks to your point, is like, no matter how authentic you are, like Instagram is performative, and that's what we were speaking about as well, is like show all parts of yourself, don't show all parts of yourself. It's so fucking confusing. Like it's really confusing, and sometimes it gets the better of me, and I just think trying to pretend that it doesn't does not feel good. And to be honest,
and it becomes such a big part of your life that it almost filters into your offline life too, because you start to like think in a certain way. And I hate that I will be having an experience and think I should capture this for Instagram. Like I hate it.
Same.
I think like I hate that that's the world that we live in. But as we were talking about before, like it is the world that we live in. And I hate that like you have to create things as clickbait. Like you can share something wholesome and it will get fuck all views. But if you share something that's clickbait, like, I think it's the world that we live in though. So it's like finding that balance. But some people will say to you, well, no, like you're your brand. It's a business. Like you need to show up in a certain way. And then other people are like, no, like some people like real and raw, and they want to know all the things, and it's validating for them to know. Like I've shared things before and people have been like, oh, wow, like I didn't think you still ever worked on anything. I'm like, what? No, of course I do. But like then I thought about it and I was like, I totally give off that. That's like my whole message. That's my whole thing is, and that's why it's so awful, like it feels awful to say it. And it's like, oh, I don't want to say that, because I would rather go through the thing and then in 6 months' time tell you and teach you how I got through the thing than tell you in the moment that it's happening.
Yeah.
Because that's just like, well, partly because on Instagram, as we said before, I get so many people, if I share something, being like, you should try this and you should do that. And that's because this angel fucking blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, thanks for your advice, but I'm just going to work it out on my own. But
like unsolicited advice.
Yeah, unsolicited advice. That's a whole conversation in its own. But I feel like it's really hard. And I think I was thinking about this the other day about like, why is it hard? Like, why is it so confusing? Why is it so hard? Like what? And I feel like we're making it hard.
100%. Yeah, making it hard and putting thought to things that we really shouldn't be putting thought to, overthinking things. And I think at the end of the day, it comes from a desire. It comes from integrity, and it comes from wanting to be the best version of ourselves for other people and for ourselves. But it's so easy to get swept up in. And like, I'm going to be so honest here. Like, I've had times where it's like, and I've said this to you, I want to quit my business and I just want to do work for someone else and do whatever. And I don't want to do that. And I love having a personal brand. I do. I love it. I love my community and the connections. And I literally thank myself every single day for it. However, I have definitely had days, and had them quite often recently, where I'm like, I don't want to be on Instagram. I don't want to show my life. And I've struggled sometimes to build my personal brand because, exactly like you said, hitting records at the moment that I just want to be present and, you know, feeling like I need to show up, and all of those things that every entrepreneur feels every single day just get the better of me sometimes, or get the better of us. And you start distorting things or not showing things and all of these complicated things. And it gets to a point where I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I just want to like live under a rock or like work at a cafe for the rest of my life and
escape. But then like, what are we escaping? I guess
that's the thing.
That's what I think about. Like, what are we escaping? We're pretty much escaping ourselves, because I don't really see anybody else being like, hey, you're not being authentic and you didn't post this. And like, it's literally just ourselves.
100%. And when I have those days, those bad days, if you will, quote unquote bad, I am always brought to like why I'm doing it in the first place. And that's purpose and connection and making a difference. And I couldn't imagine my life without it, in a cliche way.
It's like, it's such a power to be able to have been going through this too, because I have been like, oh shit, I need to look after myself. And then the first thing that goes straight away is like, well, I can't keep seeing all the clients that I'm seeing because I can't take on other people's things right now. Like, I need to get myself good first. But that's how I know that I'm out of alignment, because normally helping other people like alleviate their suffering is like my strongest why. Like, I think of somebody suffering in any way, shape or form, and I just want to help. And if I have the tools, I just want to get in there and I'm like, I'm going to help you. Like, let's get through this, because I just don't want to see people suffer unnecessarily. But as soon as I get to the point where, to be honest, I get to the point sometimes where I get messages from clients and I'm like, oh, I just can't deal with that right now. Like, I'm getting these long ass DMs and it's just like, oh, like I can't take on any more of someone else's problems. And that's when I know that I'm not in alignment and I'm not looking after myself, because normally that stuff lights me up. So it's like
100%. And I feel like I totally get that, because I feel like my version of that is overthinking my authenticity. Like, I start to overthink when I'm not looking after myself. I start to overthink when, like, recently I've been getting up and just scrolling and just checking my emails and distracting myself and low-key disassociating before I start work. And then so by the time I start work and start showing up, I don't want to, because I get confused. I don't know what to bring. I've kind of compared myself and I don't know what to do. And it's all because I haven't not taking care of myself outside of the business and just focusing on business too much.
And I think as well, like, the advice that we're taking from people, like the advice that we're taking from entrepreneurs or from people that are really successful in business, it's like, are they actually happy though? Like, yes, there's all the books. There's the books of like hustle and do this, and, you know, like, if you want to 10x, if you want to 10x your business, you need to 10x your goals. And if you want to, there's all of these business advice out there, but it's like, are those people actually happy? And are they actually the kind of happy that we want to be? And they're actually living the life that we want to be? Like,
yeah.
And how do you even know? You can't actually know. Like, this is what I've come to lately, is like, you can't actually know what life is going on behind the scenes, because as we know, we're not even showing everything that's going on behind the scenes. So it's like, why am I looking up to fucking anyone except for myself, or out to anyone except for myself? Yes, you can get the advice and you can get the guidance and you can get the rules for 10X and you can get all of the tips and tricks and shit from the book. But once you get too deep into that, and we're very like take shit on and run with it, once you get too deep into that, it's like, hold on a minute. Like I keep getting this reel at the moment at this ad, and it's this guy and he's sitting there and he's like, I'm a billionaire and the number one thing that I want you to know is blah, blah, blah. And it's a sales ad. And every time I look at it, I'm like literally shocked. He looks like he's about to die. He's like looks so unhealthy. He's got like red bags and his eyes are like ball sacks, and he's just like, he actually looks so unhealthy and unwell, and he talks about all these things that he's got. And I'm just like, there's no fucking way I'm buying that course, because I'm like, and I thought about that, and then I thought about everyone that I've looked up to, and then I think about, I wonder what their life's actually like behind the scenes. Like they're preaching the 10 steps to wealth and all this shit, but they're probably fucking got mad anxiety. They're living in fight or flight. They're crying on their yacht because there's no one to, they've pushed away all their connections because they didn't value human connection and they just look for money. And like, I've started to really just be like, but why? Why are we doing it? Why do we want it? What are we getting from it? And who are we looking up to? And why are we looking up to anyone except for ourselves?
100%. And I think that's the thing is like, we've said it before and I'm going to say it again, is like, there's so many people in the industry that we're constantly consuming from, and so many people telling you the best way to do things and what to do and how to do it. And, you know, to get this, you've got to do it this way, and like show this and don't show this. And oh my gosh, it's cliche, but the reality is the best way to go about it is trusting yourself and tuning into yourself and how you want to do things and the way that you want to do things. And yes, a beautiful amount of guidance and someone to see outside of yourself and someone to help you remove blocks and, you know, someone to help get that momentum and get it moving and do all the things. Yes, but do it your way. Trust yourself. Don't pedestal coaches. Don't pedestal people that is telling you how to do it, because you will be completely pulled outside of yourself and probably end up quitting your business. I've seen so many women that have come in and out of my coaching world and they quit their business because it's all too much.
Yeah, because they're very intuitive. It has to look a certain way.
Yeah, they're very intuitive women that have a lot of these natural abilities. Every single woman is, but I feel like I really attract women that have that heightened intuition and are sensitive souls. And as soon as you get pulled outside of yourself, it feels like the world's ending, all of the things.
And then they start to not trust themselves because they're like, oh, but so-and-so said that I should do it like this, or, you know, and especially if you're scrolling, like you said, all the time, and one coach is like, forget what every other coach says, you have to do this to get to this income, and then the next healer is like, you've got to do this if you want to actually make an impact, and someone else is, and they're all conflicting. You're just like, ugh.
Yeah. And I wonder why I was like
confused,
worried or confused about how to show up for a second there.
I think everyone is in social when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And whether it's like a mum looking at all the different parenting styles, or whether it's you know, someone looking at dieting things, or like everyone's so confused because there's so much information. My new goal is to not have Instagram, like not like have someone else run it, and I just don't even have the app. That's like life goal.
Yes, 100%. And I think for me, you know, all of the things around like what I've kind of been experiencing and like those little traits that are coming up, I'm like, I need to tap back into being a creator and not a consumer, and literally unmuting everyone that I have unconsciously started to be taking things from. And that's a thing, you don't even realize how it is affecting you until you notice that you're not operating how you used to operate, or you have this anxiety. Or for me personally, like I said, is I preach and am so passionate about being authentic. And then here I am being like, what the fuck do I show? I don't know who I am for a moment there. It's like something's not like, quite right.
I'm healed. This is life after trauma. And then like,
yeah, something's out of alignment. Something doesn't feel right. And again, it's not about shaming ourselves. It's about going back to basics of like, what needs to change? Who do I need to mute?
Yeah.
And it's just the reality of being in the entrepreneur space. I'm going to say it. It's fucking hard. It is to,
especially where you are your brand, like we said. Like it's,
yeah, it is hard work being an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of content out there that says, do it this way, it'll be easy. Like make 100K months and it'll be easy. And like, whilst there's truth pockets in that because what they're preaching is what worked for them and whatever, I'm here to recognize that. But it's not easy. And you really
but maybe
have to.
that's what needs to be the conversation though. And I'm sure there are people doing that, but it's like, imagine making Instagram just around like how confused you are. Like I'm so confused every time I scroll.
Yeah,
this
we're
is all
all
I
just
see.
trying to figure
I'm
it
so
out.
confused.
Yeah.
Like, does Instagram make you confused? It makes me confused. Like,
we're winging it, right? And it's like people or women come to us because they want help in something and they see something in us that we can help them with. And the reality is we can help them. We're good at our jobs. We're insanely good at our jobs. But that doesn't mean we have to have it all figured out and we are winging it just like you.
And there is no one except maybe even not him. Tony Robbins is like the guru. But like I was going to say there isn't anyone I don't think that has it literally all figured out. Like I just think that's being human. Like there's always going to be things that come up, things that happen, like life be life.
And you have coaches in your corner to help you navigate the fact that you can't figure it out. But your coaches are human. Like again, don't go pedestaling them because
pedestal us.
They're
pedestaling
steps,
us.
they're steps ahead of you, which is why they're going to be insanely good at getting you out of your own head and keeping you going when you want to give up and all of those incredible reasons and making things happen faster, collapsing time. Insert reason coaches are good. However, don't pedestal them.
That's why you're drawn to different people as well at different stages because there's people that have like that you've already done what they've done, but then there's someone that's at that next level. So you're always drawn to that person. That's
absolutely. And I think the thing is like I attract women that tell me when they don't agree with me. And like I remember once when a client was like, I love those parts of what you said, but like this I don't really agree with. And I love it because I'm like, I want to work with women that have autonomy and have an opinion and have a belief. And yes, they might be working with me to step outside of themselves and see outside of that. But it's like, you're a human with your own best way and your own belief system. And it's like, don't morph into the people that you are learning from. And this is actually a really powerful conversation as well that I've been having with a lot of clients is coach conditioning is like the fact that whether it's business, you're conditioned by the coaches that you work with at first, or even like in personal life, like you're in a vulnerable state and you do it the way that your coach tells you to do it for, yes, expansive reasons, but then that becomes their belief system, that becomes their be all and end all. And, you know, it's like
cult vibes.
Cult vibes. Like I've had so many powerful conversations in the DM where I'm like, it sounds like you're trying to be like your first coach. It sounds like you're trying to be like your coach and you've forgotten what you believe about it and how you want to do things and how your best way is possible. And the coaching industry literally gets some culty, like pyramid schemey vibes. And that's where it comes from.
You can tell who someone's been coached by because they become the same.
Because yes. And it's so icky. Like, and for any coaches like listening to this episode or watching this, just have a think about how your belief system could be the same as the coaches that have come before you because you've been absorbing from them at a time that's vulnerable, or you've pedestaled them, or you've taken it as gospel and it's like that's the own way. But deep, deep down, you actually want to do it a different way, or you believe something completely different and you feel like you're not good enough or you have a lack of integrity or whatever it is. But really it's just
you wanting
to be you.
I've had that exact realization or like feeling in the last few months of like, oh, like I was kind of following all these women that were like powerhouses and it was all like being direct, being loud, like speaking your opinions, like, you know, powerful women, they've got confidence, they show up, they're like, to me looked borderline arrogant, but it was like, there was this part of like over giving or like being a really giving, kind person and stuff was kind of, it's almost like it was out. And there was a lot of coaches out there that were like, that's a bad trait. And I recently have been like, actually, like I don't want to take away the fact that I love really big and that I care about every person. And I actually don't, like I need to manage that obviously and put myself first. But then that does come next. Like, and that's just who I am. And instead of being ashamed of it and instead of being like, oh, I'm too soft or I'm too gentle, even in personal situations where people are like, can't believe you forgive that person or whatever. I'm like, I don't want to be the person that is hard, and I just don't want to be that person. And I kind of am
100%.
liking that part of myself that's more gentle or kind or more like my mum, which is
100%. And I resonate with this so much because we've had some conversations around this previously over chai, whatever it is, in the past. We've had conversations about this off camera around how there's almost this fear of being perceived as unkind or thinking that if you get more successful, then, you know, you need to be more direct. And I think there's a bit of directness coming naturally through in my content, but that's scared me because I'm like, I don't want to be seen as out of touch. I don't want to be seen as unkind. And that's based on my own projections. I've, you know, been looking into that. But then I also think, call me judgmental, whatever, but I have seen some of the ways that coaches coach, and I am going to preface it with, I get that that's someone's version of what they need. That's their ideal. I have honestly come across some of the ways that some coaches talk, and it's fucking disgusting. It's so mean and it's so nasty, and I never ever want to be seen as that.
Yeah.
And call it a hashtag shadow. I'm sure if I look deep enough, it would be. But I'm sorry, like,
But is it a shadow, or is it just like you just want to be a good
in
person?
Value.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not going to assume that that person isn't a good person for their way of coaching, but at the same time, it's like,
And someone might need that.
yeah, someone might need that, but it's at the point sometimes where I'm like, that's actually really harsh and unkind and invalidating and really fucking manipulative. Like, there's a lot of manipulation in the industry. And sometimes when I feel myself getting confused on what to say and I start filtering what I'm saying, it's not because I have a messaging problem or I have another fucking shadow. It's because I am worried that I'm going to be seen as manipulative, and I don't want to be manipulative. I don't want to make someone feel like shit. And I think it's because I've seen so many people in the industry literally speaking to people like they're pieces of shit. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Especially in that, shadow work realm. Yeah, I think if we're that weird blend of somewhere between shadow workers and light workers.
Yeah.
Those people that are like, woo.
I love that.
And then the people
blend
that are,
between shadow and light
workers are like fully sometimes lost their lolly, like they're in the clouds. And then shadow workers are like so intense, and we're just kind of like
so true.
in the middle, just like, where do we be?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's because we see the power in it all at the end of the day.
And you need both, light and dark. You
need both.
All the things.
But yeah, I think sometimes
a little dot of each.
Yeah, too much of anything is bad, let's be honest. Too much, or not bad, but too much of anything is unhealthy or harmful. And I think from a place of love and from a place of integrity, we want to have a balance of both. And yeah, it's about delivering that in the most unfiltered way that feels good for us.
Yeah. Good chat. I feel like.
Good chat. I feel like it went here, there and everywhere.
It went here, there and everywhere, but that's what
I think it's
all about.
I feel like this chat was about unfilteredly just saying what's on our mind. And whilst it had like some heaviness to it, I think it's just, those conversations are valid, and I
have them.
They're really important.
Have them, people.
You know, have them. It's not going to like lower your vibration so much that like you're not going to be able to do what you want to do. Just have the conversation.
Yeah, love it.
So real.
Thanks
raw.
for listening, people.
Yeah,
thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.